originally the thought about carry was it sort of emerged from a deep understanding of the concept of global risk parity, right? So global risk parity says in a risk efficient market, you want to hold as many different sources of risk premia as possible and hold them so that their risks are generally equalized. So for example, if I've got equities and short-term bonds in a portfolio, well, if I don't change the weight, if I hold them 50-50, then most of the risk in the portfolio is coming from equities because
Yeah.
equities have much more risk than bonds.
Used to.
So I want to hold more bonds than equities until equities and bonds are giving me the same amount of risk, because at the same level of risk, I expect them both to give me the same return. All right. So anyway, the idea is to own all of these different markets, a bunch of different global equity markets, a bunch of major global bond market indices, and then a wide variety of commodities to hedge against spikes in energy inflation or metals inflation or food inflation or what have you. You want to hold this massive diversified portfolio of risk premia. And by doing that, you're earning all of the risk with all of the returns while minimizing the risk via diversification, right? But the wrinkle in that concept is that the risk premia for bonds is not always positive. The risk premia for commodities is not always positive. The risk premia for equities is not always positive. And for currencies, it's not always positive which direction you're going to earn the premium in. Do I want to be short dollars, long euros, or short euros, long dollars, right? So what carry does is it says, well, I'm going to have a global risk parity portfolio, but it's going to be in the direction of the current carry. So if bonds currently have a negatively sloping yield curve, well, I'm going to be short the longer term bonds rather than being long the longer term bonds, because I currently expect longer term bonds to have a lower return per unit of risk than shorter term bonds, right? If crude oil is in contango, where the distant futures are at a higher price than the near term futures, if I'm going to invest in the distant futures, I'm going to expect them to roll down to have a negative return. So I actually want to be short those crude oil futures. I don't want to be long those crude oil futures, right? So we're taking all the great benefits of global risk parity and we're saying, but when those risk premia are negative, I want to be short. I still want to maximize diversification across all these different markets and geographies and asset classes, but I want to always be in the current direction the carry is facing.